Shalom. First Tuesday, excuse me. Wow, I said that twice today. Second Thursday rather, of the month. So you guys know what that means. We got to stick to the script. This month we're doing stick to the script in the classroom. Take us to the PowerPoint real quick. Let's talk about what this title will be. Stick to the script in the classroom. Ruth, the Israelite? Because that's the question, right? The question being posed here is Ruth an Israelite? Is Ruth a Moabite? Right? Because a lot of, you can bring it back to me for a minute. A lot of Israel, there's a back and forth on whether or not she is, right? So what we want to do is we want to read these scriptures. We want to go through the scriptures and establish, scripturally speaking, which side is the most able to be substantiated side when we're dealing with whether or not Ruth was Israel, right? So where do I want to go first? Let's start off with Ruth chapter 1. We'll jump straight into it. Ruth chapter 1. And we're going to start at verse 1. You can read that when you got it.
Ruth chapter 1 and verse 1. Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land. Mm-hmm. And a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons.
So now, where we're going to establish everything. It was a man and his family. They went to sojourn in the country of Moab. Now we're going to get a little understanding of why this is so important and why the confusion comes in, right? So let's go to Numbers 21. I want Numbers chapter 21 And we're going to start at verse 21. And we're going to read down to verse, we're going to read down to verse 26. So read that when you got it. Numbers 21 and 21.
Numbers chapter 21, verse 21. And Israel sent messengers unto Sihon, king of the Amorites, saying, Let me pass through thy land. We will not turn into the fields or into the vineyards. We will not drink of the waters of the well, but we will go along by the king's highway until we be past thy borders. Verse 23, and Sihon would not suffer Israel to pass through his border, but Sihon gathered all his people together and went out against Israel into the wilderness. And he came to Jahaz and fought against Israel. And Israel smote him with the edge of the sword and possessed his land from Arnon unto Jabbok, even unto the children of Ammon, for the border of the children of Ammon was strong.
Right. That was
Verse 25.
read
24.
26. Salakia. 26.
Verse 26. For Heshbon was the city of Sihon, the king of the Amorites, who had fought against the former king of Moab and taken all his land out of his hand, even unto Arnon.
Right. So we see, excuse me. So we see that Heshbon was the city of Sihon, the king of the Amorites, right? The Amorites had taken that land from Moab. Originally, this particular land that they're talking about was the land of Moab. I should have given you guys a little more visual aid, but it's okay. So when you look at the history, there was a land of Moab that we ended up conquering in the end. But right now, the Amorites had it, which they took from Moab, right? Read Numbers, drop down to verse 31. Read 31 through 35.
Verse 31. Thus Israel dwelt in the land of the Amorites. And Moses sent to spy out Jazer, and they took the villages thereof, and drove out the Amorites that were there. And they turned and went up by the way of Bashan, and Og, the king of Bashan, went out against them, he and all his people, to the battle of Edrei. And the Lord said unto Moses, Fear him not, for I have delivered him into thy hand, and all his people, and his land. And thou shalt do to him as thou didst unto Sihon, king of the Amorites, which dwelt at Heshbon.
Right, read.
So they smote him and his sons and all his people, until there was none left him alive, and they possessed his land.
Right, so now they killed Og, the king of Bashan, and they took his land, right? Flip over to Numbers 32. 32 and verse 33. This is where it kind of gets important, right? Numbers chapter 32, verse 33. Read that.
Verse 33, and Moses gave unto them, even unto the children of Gad, and to the children of Reuben, and unto the half tribe of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, the kingdom of Sihon, king of the Amorites, and the kingdom of Og, king of Bashan, the land, with the cities thereof in the coasts, even the cities of the country round about.
Right. So real quick, let me see if I sent it in my email. I'll pull it up. If I didn't, then I'll just explain it. Let me check something really quick for you guys. That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. Oh, I think I did put it in here. Nope, I didn't. Just kidding. Okay. So 32 and verse 33. And it says that Moses gave to the children of Gad and the children of Reuben and the half tribe of Manasseh, the kingdom of Sihon, king of the Amorites, and the kingdom of Og, the king of Bashan, that land, right? So there was a particular area that was conquered, that we took, that we gave to Manasseh, half tribe Manasseh, Reuben, and Gad. This area was originally the land of the Moabites, which was then taken by the Amorites, which was then taken by Israel, right? But now watch this. 33 and 50, verse 50 in Numbers chapter 33.
Hold on 1 second. Verse 50, And the Lord spake unto Moses in the plains of Moab by Jordan near Jericho, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When ye are passed over Jordan into the land of Canaan, then ye shall drive out all the inhabitants of the land from before you, and destroy all their pictures, and destroy all their molten images, and quite pluck down all their high places.
Right. Go back up to 50. Read 50 one more time.
And the Lord spake unto Moses in the plains of Moab.
In the what?
In the plains of Moab.
In the plains of Moab. Read.
By Jordan near Jericho, saying.
Now, so we see here, this is the land that we've already conquered, that we have. But there was still an area inside of that land, specifically it's within the inheritance of Reuben. It was still known as the plains of Moab. Jump over to Numbers 36, and I want you to read verse 13, 36 and 13, right? Because we have to establish the premise as to why it's believed that she's Israel, right? So we get both sides of the argument. Go ahead, read that.
Numbers chapter 36 and verse 13. These are the commandments and the judgments which the Lord commanded by the hand of Moses unto the children of Israel in the plains of Moab by Jordan near Jericho.
Again, in the plains of Moab near Jordan by Jericho. That's near the northern portion of Israel is what it's talking about. But there was a specific area in there that was still known as the plains of Moab. Take me to the PowerPoint real quick. So the takeaway from this is this history is important to understand because it is the main argument made when they say that Ruth is an Israelite. When Elimelech and his family went to the land of Moab, it is presumed, it should be the country of Moab. It is presumed that they went to the plains of Moab, which is still in the land of Reuben. This is why people believe that Ruth is from the land and ultimately the tribe of Reuben, right? Now, let's look at some of these scriptures. Numbers 36 and 13. These are the commandments and the judgments which the Lord commanded by the hand of Moses unto the children of Israel in the plains of Moab by Jordan near Jericho. Now this is the word for plains. H6160 Araba. From H6150 I couldn't spell this day clearly. In the sense of sterility, a desert, especially with the article prefix and generally sterile valley of the Jordan and its continuation to the Red Seas. Araba, campaign, desert, evening heaven, plain, wilderness. Outline of biblical use. Desert plain, steppe, desert, wilderness. So this is talking about the desert area or desert area in Moab, which was Moab at one point in time, but now it was in the inheritance of Reuben. So when we read about the plains of Moab that's in Reuben, that was a desert area. Now watch this. Ruth chapter 1, verse 1. These are two different Hebrew words, by the way. Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn. It's crazy. I got a lot of stutter typing in here. Went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his two sons. Country, Hebrews 7704. Sadeh, or it would be Shadia, if you're doing Paleo Hebrew. Shadia, from an unused root, meaning to spread out. A field as flat. A country, a field, ground, land, soil, wild. So country literally means country, while plains of Moab meant the desert of this land that they still refer to as Moab in the land of Judah, right? So these are two different Hebrew words. Clearly, they have to have two different meanings. Outline of biblical usage, field, land, cultivated field, of home of wild beasts, plain as opposed to mountains, land as opposed to sea, right? So the country of Moab literally meant the country of Moab. the land where the Moabites were. The plains of Moab was the desert where they considered it to be the land of Moab at the time until the Amorites took it over, and it was still known as the plains of Moab. Then Israel took it over in the land of Reuben, and it was still known as the plains or the desert of Moab. But Ruth 1:1, Shadia, is a different Hebrew word altogether with a different meaning altogether, which would imply that it's not talking about the plains of Moab. So we see that there are two different Hebrew words and two different definitions. Now, let's go to, you can bring it back to us. Let's go to the book of Ruth. So now, the reason why I established this, first and foremost, is because when individuals are saying that Ruth is an Israelite, listen to this closely. The strongest argument that an individual uses when they are saying Ruth is an Israelite is the argument I just gave you. Plains of Moab versus country of Moab. There was plains of Moab in the place of Reuben, so we see that even when Moses took it over and the Lord was talking to him, they still considered this place the plains of Moab. So it only makes sense that she couldn't be a Moabite, but of the tribe of Reuben, living in the desert area of Moab that's known in the tribe of Reuben, or the inheritance of Reuben. That's the argument, right? But now we're going to go to the book of Ruth, because we usually don't never get to the book of Ruth when we're talking about whether she's an Israelite. We sit in Numbers most of the time because they're breaking down how, look, the land name never changed, the plains of Moab, so, and it's in the tribe of Reuben, so she had to be a Reubenite. That only makes sense. Okay. Let's go to the book of Ruth. Let's see what's going on in the time of the judges in the book of Ruth and see if you can make the determination of your own. So remember, Ruth, the Israelite, is she Israel? Is she not? Let's go to Ruth chapter 1 and verse 1. And we're going to read 1 all the way down to verse 4.
Ruth chapter 1, verse 1. Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. And the name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife Naomi, and the name of his 2 sons Mahlon and Chilion, Ephrathites of Bethlehem, Judah. And they came into the country of Moab and continued there. And Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left and her 2 sons. And they took them wives of the women of Moab. The name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other Ruth. And they dwelled there about 10 years.
Read on. I'm sorry, no. Hold that right there. Right? So, what I want to look at right now, so we read that in the time of Judges, there was a famine. During this famine, there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab. So there was a famine in Israel. So they went down to the land of Moab, the country of Moab. Is that in Reuben, or is that actually in Moab, right? Is that the land of Moab? Let's find out, right? Verse 4, and they took them wives of the women of Moab. The name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other was Ruth. And they dwelt there about 10 years. So women of Moab. Take me to the PowerPoint, please. Let's look at the word Moab, right? So this is another argument that's made. There's 2 different words for Moab, right? Moab or Moabite. One is Moabi, or I believe it's BanaYah, and then there's one that is Moabiah, which is house of Moab. This one is just BanaYah or Moabi, as the modern Hebrew would be pronounced, right? Let's read the definition. Moabi, feminine. Moabiyah, or Moabia, right? Patronymical from 412 for a Moabite or Moabitess, i.e. a descendant from Moab. Woman of Moab, Moabitish or Moabitess. So they attribute the definition woman of Moab, just meaning she was an inhabitant of the land of Moab. That's their argument, because it would have to be BanaYah, which is house of Moab, to literally mean descendant. This is the argument. Let's see if that's true. Go to 1 Kings 11:1. And I think all we have to read is verse 1. 1 Kings chapter 11, and I want to read verse 1. When you got it, read it.
1 Kings chapter 11, verse 1. But King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh.
Hold on. So read this slow. Read this slow. But King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh. So these are Egyptian women. Read.
Women of the Moabites.
Women of the Moabites. Read.
Ammonites.
Ammonites. Read.
Edomites.
Edomites.
Zidonians. And Hittites.
Now watch this. Take me back to the PowerPoint. Now remember, we see this word, Moabi. 1 Kings 11:1. What's that Hebrew word? Moabi. Or BanaYah, which is the exact same word we see here. So if you're making the argument, oh no, that's just a citizen, it's an Israelite, but a citizen of Moab. It says Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughters of Pharaoh and women of Moabi. The exact same definition. So are these Israelite women that live in this land? Or can this word also mean the house of Moab, descendants of Moab? And remind you, we're in the time of Judges, where people did pretty much what they thought was right. Right? Now, take you to another concordance, Blue Letter Bible. Same definition, Moabi. Outline of biblical use. Moabite, from father, what father? A citizen of Moab, which it could mean, but we just saw that it doesn't. An inhabitant of the land of Moab. Then we drop down here, the actual Strong's definition, Moabi, feminine, Moabiyah, or Moabiyath, corrected to Moabith, patronymical from a Moabite or Moabitess, descendant of Moab. Woman of Moab, Moabite-ish, or Moabitess, right? So now, the thing is this. We have to learn how to attribute which definitions to the words when we're breaking these things down. And as we continue to read on, you're going to see whether or not she was a citizen of Moab or an inhabitant of the plains of Moab, or if she was an actual Moabite woman. Ruth 1:6. And you can bring it back to us. Go ahead. Ruth chapter 1 and verse 6.
Ruth 1:6. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law, that she might return from the country of Moab. For she had heard in the country of Moab how that the Lord had visited his people in giving them bread. Wherefore she went forth out of the place where she was, and her two daughters-in-law with her, and they went on the way to return unto the land of Judah.
Right. So, I don't know if you caught that, but let's see if you did. Take us back to the PowerPoint. I want to walk this through so we can really break this down, right? Ruth chapter 1 and verse 6. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law that she might return from the country of Moab. Excuse me, that she might return from the country of Moab. Oh, wow, I missed the whole piece. For she had heard how the Lord had visited his people in giving them bread. Wherefore she went forth out of the place where she was, which was the country of Moab, and her two daughters-in-laws with her, and they went on the way to return to the land of Judah. So the argument is, well, Judah was her people. Judah was the Lord's people. Okay, where's the problem with that? If she's in the land of Reuben, Reuben had to be her people too. So is Judah the only people that belong to the Most High? Let's find out. Exodus 4:22. And Shamar, you should be able to see the scriptures on the PowerPoint, so you can line those up.
Con.
Exodus 4 and 22, and then you can get each one after that, the succeeding ones.
Exodus chapter 4 and verse 22.
Pay attention.
And thou shalt say unto Pharaoh, thus saith the Lord, Israel is
Judah?
Israel,
Israel, the whole nation, read,
is my son,
who I claim, read,
even my firstborn.
even who the inheritance of the world goes to, all of Israel, not just Judah, because the argument is, well, Judah was, because isn't that the tribe that Christ comes out of? That's the tribe that was close to the Lord. So when it said the Lord visited his people, he visited the land of Judah. That's not what it's saying, because the scriptures tell you that all of Israel is the Lord's people. Go to 1 Samuel 9 and 15 through 16. Go ahead and read that, Shamar, when you got it.
1 Samuel chapter 9, verse 15. Now the Lord had told Samuel in his ear a day before Saul came, saying, tomorrow about this time I will send thee a man out of the land of Benjamin, and thou shalt anoint him to be captain over my people
over
Israel. Who? Over my people.
Over my people Judah.
Over my people Israel.
Over my people. So the Lord had visited his people Israel, not his people Judah. His people Israel. Was that the end of that verse?
Lie.
Go ahead, read on.
That he may save my people out of the hand of the Philistines, for I have looked upon my people, because their cries come unto me.
My people, my people, my people, my people, Israel, my people, Israel is my people. So we can't make the argument that Judah was his people. No, it's not true. It's not true. Read 2 Samuel 7 and 10.
2 Samuel chapter 7 and verse 10. Moreover, I will appoint a place for my people Israel.
I will appoint a place for my people Judah.
For my people Israel.
I will appoint a place for my people Israel, read.
And will plant them, that they may dwell in a place of their own, and move no more. Neither shall the children of wickedness afflict them any more as before time.
My people Israel. My people Israel, not my people Judah. So we can't, that's a bad argument. But we're going to grab a couple more precepts, because some things you got to drive home. Deuteronomy 32 and 9.
Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 9. For the Lord's portion is his people.
Is his people.
Jacob.
Judah.
Jacob.
Judah.
Jacob.
Okay, Jacob.
Is the lot of his inheritance.
Israel is the Lord's portion. Now watch this. I even went as far as to show you, if anybody's going to say if the Lord says my people, anybody, go to Deuteronomy 10 and 9. If he's going to say my people, anybody, it will be these people. Read this.
Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 9. Wherefore Levi hath no part nor inheritance with his brethren. The Lord is his inheritance.
The Lord is Judah's inheritance?
Is his inheritance.
Right. Read that from the top one more time. Just for the people that might have missed it, read it one more time.
Wherefore Levi hath no part nor inheritance.
So remember, when you go through the history, everybody was given a land. Levi was given little cities in each land. They didn't get an inheritance. They didn't get a whole land allotted to them. Why? Read.
With his brethren, the Lord is The Lord is his inheritance.
Right.
According as the Lord thy God promised him.
And the Lord promises. So if we're saying anybody is the Lord's people, it would have been Levi. So to say the Lord visited his people, I was talking about he went to the land of Judah and gave them bread because Reuben didn't have that problem. No. All of Israel was the Lord's people, and if we're going to make that argument, it would have been Levi, because that was the Lord's promise to Levi, as we see. One more, Numbers 1. Numbers chapter 1.
Numbers chapter 1 and verse 49.
Right.
Only thou shalt not number the tribe of Levi.
Right.
Neither take the sum of them among the children of Israel. But thou shalt appoint the Levites over the tabernacle of testimony, and over all the vessels thereof, and over all the things that belong to it. They shall bear the tabernacle and all the vessels thereof, and they shall minister unto it, and shall encamp round about the tabernacle.
Right, read.
Verse 51, and when the tabernacle setteth forward, the Levites shall take it down. And when the tabernacle is to be pitched, the Levites shall set it up. And the stranger that cometh nigh shall be put to death.
Read on.
Verse 52, and the children of Israel shall pitch their tents, every man by his own camp, and every man by his own standard, throughout their hosts. But the Levites shall pitch round about the tabernacle of testimony, that there be no wrath upon the congregation of the children of Israel, and the Levites shall keep the charge of the tabernacle of testimony.
So now, even when we talk about who could go into the Ark of the Covenant, you know, see, who can go into the holiest of holies? The sons of Aaron, which were Levites. Who performed the services and ministered in the tabernacles? Who did things solely for the Lord? Sacrifices, keeping it clean. All Levites. So that's just proof to show you that if anybody's going to be the Lord's people, it wouldn't have been Judah. It would have been Levi, especially in this time. So we can't make the argument, and the Lord visited his people. That was talking about Judah. No, it's not. No, it's talking about his people, Israel. Because Israel was in a famine. That's why they went to the country of Moab, another nation, right? Let's go to, where do we go? Go back to Ruth. Go back to Ruth, and I think we stopped at verse 8. If not, just pick up from verse 8. Ruth chapter 1 and verse 8.
Ruth chapter 1 and verse 8. And Naomi said unto her two daughters-in-law, Go, return each to her mother's house.
I'm sorry, start at verse, I think we stopped at 7. Start at 7.
Verse 7. Wherefore she went forth out of the place where she was, and her two daughters-in-law with her. And they went on the way to return unto the land of Judah. And Naomi said unto her daughters and unto her two daughters-in-law, Go, return each to her mother's house. The Lord deal kindly with you, as ye have dealt with the dead and with me. Verse 9, the Lord grant you that ye may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband. Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voice and wept.
Verse 10.
And they said unto her, Surely we will return with thee unto thy people.
Unto what?
Unto thy people.
One more time.
Unto thy people.
Unto thy people. Now, people will make the argument, no, that just means thy tribe. That's what it's saying. They're going to return with her to her tribe, because you know Judah and Reuben ain't the same. Like, because Reubenites are different from Judites. So they're not the same people. No. The scripture said that, now we've been establishing a premise thus far to show you that she couldn't have been an Israelite, right? So remember, the whole definition of the Moabitess, the whole thing about, you know, the Lord visited his people. All of Israel is his people. And now even Moab. Ruth is sitting there saying, Ruth and Naomi are saying, no. We're going to go with you and your people. Drop down to verse 15.
Verse 15, and she said, Behold, thy sister-in-law is gone back unto her people and unto her gods. Return thou after thy sister-in-law.
Now, we're going to stop here real quick. Breakdown of that is, see, it's saying her people, that's talking about the tribe that she's from, which is Reuben, and her gods, because you know the word God is just Elohim or Elohim. That can also mean leaders and judges. So, you know, all of Israel didn't have the same judge at this particular time. Well, you could make that argument, but, verse 16.
Verse 16, and Ruth said, Entreat me not to leave thee, or to return from following after thee. For whither thou goest, I will go, and where thou lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people shall be my people, and thy God, my God.
Now, the question is this: does the context change? Because allegedly, Naomi told Ruth, "Go back to your tribe and your leaders." She said, "No, I want to go with you to your people, your tribe, and your, not God's, because remember, Moabites were polytheistic as well. It says, your God, capital G, will be my God, capital G. So did she say, go back to your people and your leaders? She said, no, I want to go to your people and your power. Why did she bring that up if that wasn't even the case of the argument? Are we just switching the context? Or is verse 14 talking about her actual idol gods? Everything has to be contextualized because there has to be continued, what is it called? Harmony in the scriptures. Everything has to roll smoothly. So the way that we read this, your sister has gone back to her people, meaning her nation, which are Moabites, and unto her gods, her actual idol deities. Return thou after thy sister-in-law. And Ruth said, entreat me not to leave thee, or to return from following after thee. For whither thou goest, I will go. Where thou lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people shall be my people, and thy power, my power. So Yahweh being our power, she says she was ready to submit to what it was that we submitted to. She wanted to ride with Naomi all the way to the end. Because remember, in the time of Judges, whenever a leader would come up, would he only judge one tribe? He would judge the entire nation. Samson, Gideon, the brother that was left-handed. I can't remember his name. The brother that was left-handed that saved Israel. All of the judges, the leaders of that time, judged the whole, Deborah, judged the whole nation, not just one tribe. So you can't do that. Now, when there was no leader, everybody did what they wanted to do. It doesn't say, well, you know, Judah had their own leader at that time, and Reuben. No, it said everybody, it was whoever the hell wanted to do, whatever the hell they could do it. That's what they were allowing. But when there was a judge or a leader, he judged the whole nation. So she said, your gods, your deities, your idols, go back to them. She said, no. Your people are going to be my people. Your power, which is Yahweh, will be my power. I'm submitting to you. I'm submitting to your ways. I'm submitting to your God. That's what we read it as. But we'll continue on to see if we can continue to gain further evidence. Now we're jumping to chapter 4 because all the middle of it is just, trivial information. Let's jump to chapter 4, touch on some more points. Ruth chapter 4, verse 13. We're going to read 13 down to 17.
Ruth chapter 4, verse 13. So Boaz took Ruth, and she was his wife. And when he went in unto her, the Lord gave her conception, and she bare a son. And the women said unto Naomi, Blessed be the Lord, which hath not left thee this day without a kinsman, that his name may be famous in Israel. And he shall be unto thee a restorer of thy life, and a nourisher of thine old age. For thy daughter-in-law, which loveth thee, which is better to thee than 7 sons, hath borne him. And Naomi took the child, and laid it in her bosom, and became nurse unto it. And the women, her neighbors, gave it a name, saying, There is a son born to Naomi, and they called his name Obed. And he is the father of Jesse, the father of David.
Right, so we read all of that to show you something, right? Oh, I missed something. I'm sorry. I think I missed a verse. Let me double check. Read 10. I think I might just need 10. Let me see. Yeah, read verse 10. I missed verse 10. I'm sorry. Read verse 10.
Ruth chapter 4, verse 10. Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of Mahlon, have I purchased to be my wife, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance, that the name of the dead be not cut off from among his brethren, and from the gate of his place ye are witnesses this day.
Right. So Boaz purchased Naomi along with the rest of the property. She bore him a son. They said the child was, matter of fact, go to the PowerPoint. So we can touch the points. Go to the PowerPoint for me real quick, Shamar. The questions that we need to answer. Why was Ruth purchased with the land as property? You cannot, give me Leviticus 25:44. Hold that for me. Why was she purchased with the land as property? Very important question. Why did Ruth give up the baby? Because remember, it said that she gave the baby to Naomi, and Naomi gave nurse to it. Naomi started taking care of that child. And why was the child said to be born of Naomi instead of born of Ruth? Now, people make the argument, well, you know, because it was to establish the house of Elimelech. Okay, Elimelech had 2 sons. His 2 sons married those women. So the child could have easily been whichever husband was Ruth's, whether it was Mahlon or Chilion, let's say Mahlon. It could have easily been to establish the name of Mahlon, which would have been to establish the name of Elimelech. The exact same thing. Why was it taken from Ruth and given to Naomi? The child was born of Naomi. Now, if we flip back over to Ruth chapter 1:1, I want to read it real quick. Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. So he already had progeny, right? And the name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of the wife Naomi. And the name of the 2 sons was Mahlon and Chilion, Ephrathites of Bethlehem, Judah, and they came into the country of Moab and continued there. Mahlon and Chilion had daughters. Mahlon and Chilion had wives. If they died, the duty to a brother's wife extends to that particular brother. So Naomi's husband died, the duty should have been to Chilion or Mahlon, whichever one was her husband. Why did it go back up to Naomi? Because Ruth bore no relevance. Because Ruth was not an Israelite. So the child she birthed was born to Naomi. That's now her child. She gave up the baby. Watch this, Leviticus 25:44. Let's talk about why she was purchased as property. Leviticus chapter 25. Let me double check if that's the one that I need. I believe it is, but I want to double check. 25. Yes, read that.
Leviticus chapter 25, verse 44. Both thy bondmen and thy
bondmaids, these aren't servants. These are slaves, things you own. Read.
Which thou shalt have, shall be of the heathen that are round about you.
Right.
Of them shall ye buy bondmen and bondmaids.
Of them shall ye buy. You can purchase them. Let's jump up to verse 40.
Verse 40. But as an hired servant and as a sojourner, he shall be with thee, and he shall serve thee unto the year of Jubilee. And then shall he depart from thee, both he and his children with him, and shall return unto his own family, and unto the possession of his fathers shall he return.
Verse 39. I'm sorry, we needed 39.
Verse 39. And if thy brother that dwelleth by thee be waxen poor, and be sold unto thee, thou shalt not compel him to serve as a bond servant.
Right, so if they sell themselves to you, meaning they are an indentured servant, because remember, it says the year of Jubilee, you have to let them go, right? So you're hiring them. But verse 44 says you can buy bondmen and bondwomen of the other nations. Verse 45.
Verse 45. Moreover, of the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you, of them shall ye buy.
Read that again.
Of them shall ye buy.
Moreover, of the children of the strangers, those are the ones you can buy. They have to be of the other nations. So this wasn't a dowry or anything like that. He purchased Ruth like property along with the rest of the property, the land. Why? If she was Israel, you can't do that. Now, if she wasn't Israel, you can do that. If she was not Israel, right? So, you can bring it back to me, Shamar. So, these are the questions that we have to answer. These are the questions that we have to ask, right? One, why was she purchased as property along with the land. That's against the law. You can't do that. Leviticus 25, 44 through 45. You can purchase the other nations. Why did Ruth give up the baby? If it was to be born of her kinsman or Elimelech's kinsman, Milan and Chilion were her, one of them was her husband. It could have been born in the name of one of the sons. But Ruth bore no relevance there because she was in Israel. So the child was born unto Naomi, not Ruth, Naomi, right? And it also said, actually, let me go back to Ruth. No, I don't need that. Never mind. Let's go to Nehemiah 13 and 23. Why did she give up the child? Let's see why she gave up the child. From reading and analyzing the scriptures, this makes the most sense from what I've read thus far.
What chapter and verse?
Nehemiah 13. We'll start at 23, and we'll read to 24.
Nehemiah chapter 13, verse 23. In those days also saw I Jews that had married wives of Ashdod, of Ammon, and of Moab. And their children spake half in the speech of Ashdod, and could not speak in the Jews' language, but according to the language of each people.
Right. So hold on real quick. Let me see if I can find this real quick. Go give me Isaiah 41 and 21. Hold that. So, from what I've read through the scriptures, right, remember, our women are the ones that train up the children. They teach them from a very young age. That's why even in this time of Nehemiah, we were marrying Moabites, Philistines, Ammonites, and they couldn't even speak the Jews' language. They couldn't even speak Hebrew. They were speaking the Moabite tongue, right? So what makes sense to me is Ruth wasn't an Israelite. So there was a strong chance, which Lord willing, she probably didn't do it, but we don't see it here. But there was a strong chance that she could have gone off and started to teach the child the wrong thing. So the child was to be born and given to Naomi, an Israelite woman, and raised up in the Israelite customs. Ruth was a stranger to the land. She just got there. Remember, she was in the country of Moab the whole time. She followed Naomi there, married her kinsmen, and more than likely, she didn't know much about the culture and the things that we did. She was probably just learning about the Sabbath, just learning about the what do we call it? The dietary laws and so on and so forth. She was married to these men, but to what extent were they being taught? I don't know. We were in the times of Judges, where every man was doing that which was right in their own eyes. So I can't say definitively that, she was being taught the right way, but I'm not saying that she wasn't. But she was a heathen. Her being of another nation is why that baby had to be given to an Israelite, to be raised up as an Israelite, to be raised up as under the Hebrew culture accurately and properly, right? So that makes the most sense to me. So one more time, take me to the PowerPoint. So I want to do a recap. Elimelech and his family were in the country of Moab, not the plains of Moab. It says the country of Moab. Again, we showed earlier how that's distinct from the plains, right? Ruth and Orpah were women of Moab, but it showed that it referred to the descendants of Moab as well as an inhabitant, so to speak. And we went through the scriptures to show how it's a stronger possibility that she would be of another nation than of a citizen of the plains of Moab. Makes more sense that she was a woman of the country and the descendants of Moab, right? God visited his people, showing that the people in the country of Moab were not the same as Naomi's people, which were Israelites. Because we can't make the argument that the Lord visited his people. We're talking about he visited Judah because, Judah, Christ came out of Judah, blah, blah, blah. No. You can't use that in this time because if anything, Levi was his people at this time. And we read that earlier in Numbers. We read that earlier in Deuteronomy, right? So his people was talking about Israel. There was a number of scriptures that we went over to show that his people are Israel. Naomi tried to send Ruth back to her gods, her idols, not her leaders, her idols. Why? Because when we contextualize it, and she said, I will serve, your people will be my people, and your God, my God. They were talking about our power, Yahweh. She was going to serve our power, Yahweh, and not her own idols. She was purchased as property with the rest of the land, which we showed in the law that you cannot do that to an Israelite. But you can hire an Israelite. But she was purchased along with the land as property. You cannot do that. She gave up her child to Naomi. And the people said the child was born of Naomi instead of being born of Ruth. There would be no reason for her to do that if she was an Israelite woman. Now, question, because I've heard this. So you're telling me that Boaz committed a sin? Did Boaz sin? Let's go to Judges 21 and 25. The scriptures don't say that Boaz sinned, so there's no way that he could have, she was a heathen, because we know the scripture said we're supposed to be married to other nations. Okay. Judges 21 and 25. You can go ahead and read that when you got it, Shamar.
Judges chapter 21 and verse 25. In those days, there was no king in Israel.
There was no leader.
Every man did that which was right in his own eyes.
Every man did that which was right in his own eyes. It doesn't say that he sinned, so she couldn't have been of another nation. That's not true. Samson was a Nazarite. Samson ate honey out of a dead lion. A Nazarite is not supposed to touch a dead nothing. But it never said that Samson sinned. Why? Because all it's doing is keeping a historical record of what is going on. They didn't say, yes, he sinned, no, he didn't sin. There's a number of times in the scriptures that we see certain things happen, and they don't say whether or not a person sinned. Samson is a perfect example of that. Samson being a Nazarite, right? Touching dead things, touching dead bodies, touched the jawbone of a dead ass, a dead donkey. He was touching dead shit, touching dead things all the time as a Nazarite. Never cut his hair for it either. Because you would have to start over the vow. Now, here's the thing. Samson was a Nazarite from his birth and was supposed to be a Nazarite all his life. So, did Samson sin? It doesn't say. So, he couldn't have sinned. That's no. The scriptures did not specify it because the scriptures was giving, you can bring it back to me, was just giving historical information, holding a historical record, giving a historical account. You can't use that horrible reasoning of, well, it doesn't say he sinned, so, and we know it's wrong to marry the other nations, so clearly he didn't do it because Boaz was a righteous man. Scriptures don't say that. The book of Ruth was originally a part of the book of Judges. We read that in Ruth 1 and 1, the time of the Judges. All it's doing is giving a historical record of what happened with Ruth and Boaz. What was the significance? Now, there's a question. What was the significance of Ruth that we're even talking about her? Well, first of all, the people who put together the books of the Bible decided that she was so important that they would give her a separate book outside of Judges, because Ruth was in the time of Judges. That's it. Ruth was in the time of Judges. But what was her relevance? Well, read I'm sorry, Shamar, I still want you to hold that Isaiah 41, but I want you to go to Ruth chapter 4 and read 17. Yeah, read 17. That's what I need. 4 and 17.
Ruth chapter 4, verse 17. And the women, her neighbors, gave it a name, saying, there is a son born to Naomi.
Not Ruth, to Naomi, but read.
And they called his name Obed.
Obed, which is who?
He is the father of Jesse.
Which is who?
The father of David.
Right. Now let's go to Matthew chapter 1. Well, why is Ruth so important? Why would they give her a book of her own? Well, because the people who put the Bible together decided that they're going to separate the book of Ruth from the book of Judges. But the book of Ruth was in the time of Judges, so it's technically a part of the book of Judges. So it's not a very strong argument to make. But what's the significance of Ruth? That's a very great question. Matthew chapter 1 and verse 1, read down to 5.
Matthew chapter 1, verse 1. The book of the generation of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham begat Isaac, and Isaac begat Jacob, and Jacob begat Judas and his brethren. And Judas begat Phares and Zerah of Thamar, and Phares begat Esrom, and Esrom begat Aram, and Aram begat Amminadab, and Amminadab begat Naasan, and Naasan begat Salmon, and Salmon begat Booz of Rachad, and Booz begat Obed of Ruth.
Read that again.
And Booz begat Obed of Ruth.
Uh-huh.
And Obed begat Jesse.
Uh-huh.
And Jesse begat David the king.
Right. What was the importance of Ruth? Ruth and Boaz had Obed, who had Jesse, who had David out of his line. Give me Romans 1 and 3 real quick. Out of his line would be Matthew 1 and 1, the book of the generations of Yahushai HaMashiach. Without Ruth, we wouldn't have gotten Christ. But read Romans 1 and 3.
Romans chapter 1, verse 3. Concerning his son, Yahushai, our Lord, which was made of the seed of David.
Seed of who?
The seed of David.
David was the grandson of Obed, the great-grandson of Ruth and Boaz. So we needed Ruth and Boaz to have Obed, to have Jesse, to have David, to go all the way down to have Christ. That's the importance of Ruth. Ruth is the foremother of our Hamashiach, our Messiah. Now give me Isaiah 41 and 21, please.
Isaiah chapter 41, verse 21. Produce your cause, saith the Lord. Bring forth your strong reasons, saith the King of Jacob.
Right. Give me hold fast to that which is good in 1 Thessalonians. He said, bring forth your strong reasoning. Right? So why, what is your stance on Ruth? Well, we brought forth our strong reasoning. We went into the scriptures. We went into the precepts. We went into the Hebrew to break down how she's not an Israelite. And you can't make that argument based off of, well, the plains of Moab. And look, the country of Moab. Because what we'll do is we'll run into a stalemate. Because I'm still going to say the country is not the plains. And you're still going to say it's the same thing. So now let's go to Ruth. Let's read what's in Ruth. And see what conclusion we come to there. Right? So the conclusion that we came to, country of Moab, which we'll cross that one out and say it's a stalemate. Ruth and Orpah were women of Moab, which we saw in the Hebrew could also mean descendants of the nation of Moab. But you know what? We'll cross that one out too, just for you guys, right? God visited his people. They were in the country of Moab, which was in the land of Reuben. We pulled out Samuel. We pulled out Exodus. We pulled out, I think, 2 of them in Samuel. And I think it was like 1 in Numbers. Israel is his people. It wouldn't make sense to differentiate Judah from Reuben and say Reuben's not his people, Judah's his people, but not Reuben. We also showed that if anybody was going to be called his people in this time, it would have been Levi. The Lord visited his people, Israel, and gave them bread while they were in the country of the nation of Moab. Naomi tried to send Ruth back to her gods, her deities, her idols. Ruth said, no, I want to serve your God, your power. You go to your gods. No, I want to serve your God. She wanted to serve Yahweh. Be a servant under our people. She was purchased as property along with the rest of the land that Boaz purchased. You can't do that according to the law. You can't do that according to the law. Not of your own people, but you can do that to the other nations and by them forever. Just like I think it's the scripture in Numbers chapter 1 that talks about we can hold them and they'll be an inheritance for us. Same thing. She was purchased as property. She gave up the child. Why did she give up the child if she's an Israelite? There wouldn't be a point to do that. Because she's an Israelite. She knows the customs. She knows the law. She knows the culture. She can raise this child up right. And why was the child said to be born of Naomi? Shamar, do me a favor. Read that Isaiah 41 again. 41 and 21.
Isaiah chapter 41, verse 21. Produce your cause.
Produce your cause. Bring forth what it is that you want to discuss. Where's our point of contention, right? Read.
Saith the Lord, bring forth your strong reasons.
And bring forth your strong reasons. How are you going to reason this? Read.
Saith the King of Jacob.
Right. Bring forth your strong reasoning. That's what even thus saith the Lord. You make a point, bring forth that strong reasoning. We're going to talk about it. So we personally hold to Ruth not being an Israelite. Is it a salvation thing? No, not really. But a lot of people hold to her being an Israelite. But we have to look in the scriptures and see what thus saith the scripts. Otherwise, you're pushing things that are not in the scriptures and you're adding to the scriptures, and that's a dangerous game. Whatever it was that I asked you to get in Thessalonians, can you get that?
1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 21. Prove all things.
Prove everything that you're saying. Read.
Hold fast to that which is good.
Right? And hold fast, hold tight to that which you've learned that is good, that has been proven. Right? So, tonight wasn't going to be a very long lesson. Just wanted to get that out because I know there's two schools of thoughts on where Ruth is. So for those that believe she's an Israelite, this gives you the other side of the spectrum, and it allows you to look at the scriptures and see what it is that the scriptures say, as opposed to, that one side where we're only talking about the plains of Moab. This is the land. There's a number of things in the book of Ruth that would contradict the scriptures if we're saying that she's an Israelite. So this has been another segment of Stick to the Script in the Classroom. Now, go ahead and do my spiel. Every first Monday, we have Bible Q&A, where you can come and ask any question pertaining to scripture, history, doctrine, whatever it is that you have a question about, come and ask it. If we got the answer, we're going to give it to you. If we don't have the answer, we're going to try to get the answer for you, and we'll have it ready for you the next Q&A. We don't profess to know everything, but all the things that we do know, we will share it with you, and we will edify you to the best of our ability. Every other Monday outside of that, we have our Spanish class. That's led by our apostle Ashnapash. And so you definitely want to tune into those. It's the Bible Basics in Spanish for our Spanish-speaking people, our Latinos, or what we refer to as the 10 tribe, right? Every Tuesday, Bible Basics. We're dealing with doctrine, we're dealing with law, all the stuff that you need to know that's most pertinent to your salvation. You need to tap into those rooms. It's going to give you a foundation. It's going to keep you rooted. Every Wednesday, World History According to the Bible, another foundational class so you can get an understanding of the history that was going on in the Bible. We give you in scripture sources. We give you extra biblical sources to solidify the scriptures that we've read in the Bible. You want to tune in for those. It gives you a basic foundation and gives you something to build on to further your understanding and reading and understanding of the scriptures. Every second and fourth Thursday, we have Stick to the Script. The second Thursdays, which is today, we have either In the Classroom or Chopper City, where we give you some special lesson that we just decide to do spontaneously, or we pull out a lesson that's cutting up doctrines. Right? So, we give you one of the two. It's always something good, though, I'll tell you that. It's something that's usually not on the schedule, but whatever it is, it's usually a really good class. And the fourth Thursday is current events. And then Friday is room 144, led by either Deacon Yashimai or one of the bishops. And that classroom is anything ranging from character to Bible basics that's more in depth to doctrinal thing. You can get just about anything in those classes, but you know that it's going to be something strong. It's going to be something mighty. It's going to be something powerful. It's going to be something that you need to tune in and tap into. Feed the Sheep, Saturdays at 4:30 is when class starts. Archbishop Taziah Wan. What don't he teach, honestly? It could be something doctrinal, but more often than not, it's something spiritual, something that the people need to hear pertaining to their spirits, pertaining to their salvation, pertaining to their standing in the eyes of the Lord. So you really want to tune into those, in addition to the fact that Taziah Wan's an amazing teacher. You really want to tune into that class because that's a strong one that's pertinent to your salvation. He's really heavy on character. He's really heavy on building your spirit up. And there's a lot of Israel that needs that. We be so hell-bent and stuck on prophecy, hell-bent and stuck on, the Bible history, and I know about the Roman captivity, and I know the Hebrew very well. That means not nothing, near damn nothing in the eyes of the Most High if your spirit is foul and you don't know the basics, which is the laws. You got two choices. You got two main things, rather, that's pertinent to your salvation. The right spirit, the right character, the fruits of the Spirit, and understanding the law, and of course the faith in Christ. Those two go together. So you want to tap into these classes. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, subscribe, True Nation Israelite Congregation. If you haven't followed us on Facebook, follow the group True Nation Israelite Congregation so you can get alerts every time that we're going live. This is spiritual food that you need for your nourishment. Tap in, tune in, like, subscribe, share the content, right? We do this for y'all. We want you guys to get your spirits fed, get your spirits right, stay strong, and stay in the good graces of the Most High. So this is what we do it for. But with that, there's been another episode of Stick to the Script in the Classroom. Brother Darash signing out, family. Shalom.